Good evening, America. Welcome to the Monday edition of Just the News, No Noise. I'm your host, John Solomon, reporting to you, as always, from the nation's capital and the wiredtofishcoffee.com studios. You know, this Wired to Fish coffee is my favorite coffee. It's also the official coffee of Just the News, and you can go get and try some yourself at wired2fishcoffee.com. And if you do that, you get 10% off just by using the promo code JustNews. They support us here. Support them. By the way, spoil yourself with a good cup of coffee. Go check them out today. wired2fishcoffee.com, promo code JustNews. All right. Two major developments, two pieces of impact from the reporting that we've done here at Just the News. We're going to get to both of them right away. You remember last week, we had President Trump on the show, and we asked him, would he consider declassifying the classified annex to the Hillary Clinton email investigation that we've all been kept from over the years. He did it. In just 5 days, it went from classified to the hands of Senator Chuck Grassley and out to the American public today. What did it show? The FBI decided to clear Hillary Clinton after learning there were 5 thumb drives full of State Department sensitive information that had been exfiltrated from her servers. They didn't bother to look at it. They also didn't bother to look at an intercept that suggested that President Barack Obama, had put the kibosh and told Attorney General Loretta Lynch to not allow the investigation of Hillary Clinton to cause anything damaging to her. He didn't want a scandal at the end of his presidency. They didn't look at that intelligence either to see if it was true. They gave her a pass without looking at either of those two explosive revelations. We're going to have more on that in just a little bit. The man who fought 7 years to make that information public, Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, going to join us in the second block of the show. The second piece occurred over the weekend. My good friend Laura Logan did a guest piece for us at Just the News, reporting that the United Arab Emirates was about to deport 30 to 40 Afghan interpreters and Afghan Special Forces soldiers who had worked alongside our troops during the Afghan war back to the Taliban. That wouldn't have been good for them. They probably would have faced death or torture or some other terrible outcome. President Trump read the story. He texted out on social media on Sunday morning, I'm going to try to save them. Today, confirmation, all of those Afghan allies of the United States have been saved. J.D. Vance, the vice president, Susie Wiles, the White House chief of staff, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, intervened with the UAE. They're going to continue to have safe harbor there. And now the United States has begun the process of vetting these Afghan refugees to see if they can come to the United States or to another Western country so that the Taliban can never get their dirty hands on them. Another major win for President Trump. Another cleanup on aisle 7 from the terrible, disastrous withdrawal that Joe Biden imposed on this country with great dishonor, the way we withdrew from Afghanistan and left our allies behind. We'll have more on that later in the show. Great time to bring in my amazing co-host, Amanda Head, for other headlines. We got a lot of other stuff today. MLK, right?
Yes, indeed, John. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has been on a roll, first revealing how the Russiagate hoax was allegedly manufactured by the Obama administration. She has characterized the whole affair as a coup and has called for the prosecution of everyone involved, no matter how powerful. So I think it's safe to say that DNI Gabbard has been all about transparency so far in the Trump administration. And she took another step towards full transparency today, releasing hundreds of thousands of documents related to the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. She wrote over on X announcing the declassification of the documents today after nearly 60 years of questions surrounding the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We are releasing 230,000 MLK assassination files. The documents include details about the FBI's investigation into the assassination of MLK, discussion of potential leads, internal FBI memos detailing the progress of the case, information about James Earl Ray's former cellmate who stated he discussed with Ray an alleged assassination plot, and more. Goodness gracious, John, she has really adhered to that notion of transparency under the Trump administration.
Yeah, we got a healthy dose of these are secrets that have been kept with us 7-8 years in the case of Russiagate, 60 years in the case of Martin Luther King Jr., the president, and his team making good on that. Another person that is fond of transparency, always trying to get the American people the truth. He was one of the most important voices on the border and on so many other great common sense issues. He's Congressman Randy Weber from the great state of Texas. He joins us at the top of the show today. Congressman, good to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's good to be with y'all.
All right, let me start off with the extraordinary revelation that Chuck Grassley put out there today, compliments of President Trump and the FBI. The FBI has 2 leads that Hillary Clinton might have done something bad. One, a cover-up with Barack Obama. The other, maybe having true national security risk by her email server. They sweep it under the rug and give her a pass. Your thoughts on that?
Well, you saw that when he stood up, I think it was July, when he announced to the people that there would be no charges. He enumerated how many, pardon me, emails Hillary had on her personal computer, excuse me, and why it was that it shouldn't make that much difference and why he wasn't bringing charges. And I'm watching this in real time, John and Amanda, and I'm saying, Mr. Director of the FBI, you're not the judge and jury. You're not the prosecutor. You're the investigator. You go out there, you get the information, and then you turn it over to the judicial system and let the chips fall where they're may. It was highly obvious back then. I can't believe more people didn't realize that. And that was what we fought for a long time. And let me add this, John and Amanda, if I can be long-winded for a second. 3 people who've run for president in the last 10 or 12 years have had classified documents. Of course, you had Hillary Clinton, illegally. She was Secretary of State and never the president. Then you had Biden, Joe Biden, or Biden, as I call him, under Obama, never the president. He had classified documents of all places in his garage, in his car. And then, of course, Donald Trump had classified documents. He was president. 3 people ran for president and had classified documents, but only 1 got indicted. Figure that out. Do we have a corrupt set of investigators in the FBI? What does that look like?
That's a great question.
Well, and Congressman, I know that, what we're talking about with respect to Russiagate, that all happened in the past, but I think for the American people, maybe there's a pattern here. And, we see it on both sides of the aisle. We see corruption on both sides of the aisle. But when it comes to this, and President Trump even talked about this in a True Social post, I think last week or week before, Democrats, they stick together, even in cases like this where they're willing to break the law. Is this a pattern that allegedly break the law? Is this a pattern that you are concerned will carry out in the future as well?
Well, absolutely it is. You're seeing it play out in real time right now. They've got a communist running for mayor in New York, and either Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries will say a thing about him, will say anything negative about him. They stick together like glue. Republicans now, we're independent thinkers now. We will call each other to task from time to time, unfortunately. Some people take that as a problem for Republicans, and it can be, but not so much like the Democrats. They get behind whether it's Barack Hussein Obama, whether it's Joseph Biden, or whether it's anybody that they think they should run for president, Hillary Clinton included. They'll get behind them and they will toe that company line, even if it's absolutely a lie. If you and I filed a affidavit to the FISA court, a warrant that was false, we would be in jail, y'all. It's unbelievable how the Democrats get away with that stuff.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Barack Obama's name comes up a lot more now that we're getting all the secrets that were kept from us. He's in the meeting when everybody finds out that Hillary Clinton ordered the Russia collusion dirty trick to be played on Trump. He's in the meeting where they're still going after Mike Flynn if the FBI wanted to clear Mike Flynn of any wrongdoing. And he's mentioned in this intercept as putting the kibosh on the Hillary Clinton email scandal. Is he someone that should face some questioning before a grand jury?
No one's above the law, right? And you saw that of the 3 people that classified documents, again, you saw a major portion of lawfare, we call it, against President Trump. Even though he was in office, even though he didn't do anything wrong in New York, he priced his property like he wanted it to be. If you and I were going to sell a house, we'd put an upper level price on that house. There was not a victim there. The banks didn't get hurt. The loan institutions didn't get hurt. Nobody was complaining. They come after him with lawfare. There's no difference, in my opinion, with Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, or Obama.
Congressman, in another story, and a huge credit to Just the News reporting, because I don't know if the president would have been alerted to this without it, but President Trump moved very swiftly, along with his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, about 40 or so Afghani translators who worked side by side with our American troops in Afghanistan were going to be turned over to the Taliban by UAE, where they are presently. And I mean, that, I think, undoubtedly would have been the end of them. President Trump moved, and now they are safe. They are staying with UAE. It's a message of strength across the globe, isn't it?
Well, it really is. That's a shame because they helped us. Of course, Biden withdrew us in such a disastrous method. And there's no reason that our great friends and allies who helped us interpret it, they should all be over here, in my opinion. And yet, and President Trump, as you pointed out, rightfully so, to his great credit, he doesn't mince words. He doesn't wait. He acts quickly and he acts incisively. And that's one of the reasons the countries around the world are respecting America again.
Yeah, it is. It is amazing how quick this happened, and not a minute too late for those Afghan allies, because they were in grave danger of being deported over the weekend. Really remarkable. So I want to turn to something that I know you've weighed in on, and I think it's not getting the attention it deserves. Ireland basically putting an all-out boycott on products from Israel and Israel. What should happen to Ireland? I mean, we used to think Ireland is the land of the free. It doesn't look that free these days anymore.
Well, I called for a boycott. I say called. I made a post about it. Well, Ireland should be boycotted in every single way possible. It's unbelievable that they would take that poise and say that they're going to that they should do. Everybody should ignore Israel, our greatest friend. Now, whether they'll and I would love to see President Trump get involved with that. You talk about tariffs or some other ways that we could put the quietus on Ireland. There's some things that we should attest to. There's some things we should attack. And I think for President Trump, I would hope they would take that one on.
Yeah.
Congressman, another flashpoint issue. There are some Republicans on Capitol Hill who would support an amnesty bill, one that was proposed by a Florida Congresswoman. I want to ask you about that notion, because the polling still shows that the American people largely support the deportation operations, not amnesty. So why is this cropping up on Capitol Hill?
I really don't know. In my opinion, it's a non-starter. The most of us don't support, giving them all a blank check, if you will, saying that they get amnesty. They came here, they broke our law. They should go back. If the Congress wanted, in its crazy, stupid, infinite wisdom, quote unquote, to make it where there was a law would be one thing. I know she's trying to get that law passed. I don't agree with it. I think the ones who came here, a message has to be sent to people down south. It doesn't matter just down south. They could be from the eastern, Europe. They could be from the Mideast. If they break our law coming in, they can't stay. It's pretty simple in my book.
Yeah, it is simple, and it's simple in the American People's Book. They clearly support it. Sir, there's a lot of demagoguery going on with the big beautiful bill. A lot of people on the left trying to say, oh, this is just one big giant tax cut for billionaires, but this has real downstream impact on everyday working Americans, middle class Americans. This is not a big tax cut for the wealthy, is it?
No, the 2017 Tax and Jobs Cuts Act that Kevin Brady from Texas was instrumental in, President Trump was instrumental in. We're making that permanent. People are getting more tax cuts than they've had in a long time. And the crazy people on the left that say this is just for billionaires, I hate to break it to them. Billionaires have CPAs and people that do all their financial accounting and make sure they take care of every legal thing they can in the tax system. And so this is not helping this is not tax cuts for billionaires. This is for the working people in America. This is for everybody who has a job 9 to 5, or maybe they've got a part-time job, or maybe they've got a job as electrician or carpenter. We absolutely, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on interest of people buying cars. Think about how many automobiles are sold. This is about working people. And yet the crazy left wants to try to make us look bad. Oh, it's all about billionaires. That's hogwash.
And this no tax on tips thing, that's going to be hugely beneficial. I don't know, though, many millionaires and billionaires who work on tips. Do you?
Well, maybe a tip for the stock market.
Indeed. Touche.
Right.
But nothing like the crazy left is insinuating. They've lost their way. I'll tell you, they're off their rocker.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, sir, it's always a great honor to have you on the show. We always learn a lot. You make us smile a little bit, too, which is a great thing in Washington. Great to have you on the show, my friend. Thank you so much.
We appreciate what y'all do. Thanks for getting the word out.
Thank you so much. Wow, what a great interview. Boy, he's on that Ireland thing. I'm just shocked at the anti-Semitism in Ireland. This is a big issue, and I think it's going to come back to bite Ireland. He's on.
We started seeing those indications of quashing free speech over there a while ago.
Yeah.
So.
It's just crazy. Anti-Semitism, anti-Americanism, and anti-freedom. What the heck? One of the great islands in the world. All right. Speaking of big news, Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley is going to join us next. He's going to talk about that bombshell declassified document he got. President Trump promised it here on the show. He did it within 5 days. Lots of news in it. We're going to cover that next with the senator right after these messages.
Do you or someone you know need to wear a CPAP machine? If you do, you understand how uncomfortable it can be. A CPAP machine has a mask with air hoses that are strapped to your face all night, and without it, breathing is disrupted. And if your breathing is disrupted, you are at higher risk of dementia, stroke, heart disease, and premature death. And guess what? If you snore now, you are at a heightened risk of requiring a CPAP machine later. So now is the time to stop snoring. Now, one of the smartest, fastest, easiest ways to stop snoring is Zypa. Zypa is the comfortable doctor-designed mouthpiece that can stop snoring as fast as the very first night. So don't be fooled by imitators. Zypa was proven in a 600-patient clinical trial. And with over 500,000 units sold, Zypa is the stop snoring device I trust. No more being nudged awake for snoring, no more sleeping in separate rooms, no more feeling tired and foggy all day due to lack of sleep. Zypa, that's happy Z spelled backward. We want you to try it with our special Just the News discount. Get 20% off and free shipping. So visit zyppah.com and use promo code SNORE. Again, that's promo code SNORE at zyppah.com. Welcome back, everybody. Finally, 7 years later, we are finally starting to get some answers thanks to our next guest. Remember that FBI investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails and then the announcement by James Comey that said, oh, nope, nothing, we're ending the investigation. And a lot of people scratched their head and wondered why. Well, now we are finally starting to unpack that and understand it thanks to a previously classified appendix to that investigation that was declassified and released by Senator Chuck Grassley, who joins us now. Senator, thanks for being here.
I'm glad to be with you. Thank you very much.
Sir, I keep thinking of the tortoise and the hare. And let me tell you, this is not even something that took that long. I know 7 years seems like a long time, but you've been at this for a while. Congratulations. Thank you. What were some of the top line things that you found out that were so damning?
First of all, I think I need to compliment the Trump administration because I've sought information under both Republican and Democrat presidents over decades on a lot of my oversight work, and I'm getting more cooperation from the Trump administration than I ever got before. I think to back up your question, I ought to say we're talking about Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, also at the same time candidate for President of the United States, and a person that ought to know better than to keep emails and official correspondence on a server that's not protected in her own home. And this was all brought out before the election. But what we're making public today is this fact that the FBI knew about it. They got some thumb drives that dealt with all these issues. They didn't even bother to go through it. It was a complete cover-up, completely ignoring their responsibilities. Another way of saving the politicalization and weaponization of the FBI and the Department of Justice, turning a blind eye to key evidence while investigating Hillary Clinton's mishandling of classified information on this private email server. These findings prove that the Clinton investigation wasn't thorough and complete. In fact, you could say they didn't even start to look at it. And I've been requesting this report to be declassified for years, and finally now, after 7 years, we got it declassified so the American people can have all the facts at their disposal.
Yeah, such an amazing effort that you made, and we're so grateful to President Trump and his team for finally getting it out there. He mentioned it last week in our interview with him. Amanda and I interviewed him. This is one of the things, I'm going to get this for Senator Grassley. So he knew you were trying to get this information, and he was so glad, I know, to get it declassified. I want to turn to a second piece of this, which is there's always been this report that there was an intelligence intercept or something of that sort that suggested there was an unusual conversation between Debbie Wasserman Schultz, then a Florida congresswoman, and DNC chairwoman and the George Soros people overseas, suggesting maybe the fix was in, that Obama was fixing Hillary, and then they were going to go after Trump. How disturbing is it that also didn't really get looked at closely?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not sure that I can answer that definitively, but there is the evidence you're talking about, and I think we're going to have to wait till we've gone through this to a greater extent to get the answer that you'd like to have me give you today. All of that is in the annex, and I suppose the final answer to your question is it's up to the DOJ and the FBI to investigate and see if there needs to be any action taken, whether it involves the Congresswoman as then chairman of the National Democratic Committee or anybody else that's involved in this whole thing.
Yeah.
I tell you what, if I was Joe Biden, I would be asking questions about why they pulled out all the stops to protect Hillary Clinton and not me. But, sir, to that end, Senator, what is Barack Obama's culpability in all of this? Obviously, the head of the executive branch, that covers the FBI, but does he have plausible deniability as far as his insight and involvement in any of this?
What I know, now you're talking about something that is after a few weeks after the president is elected the first time, and the shenanigans that were going on at that particular time to either ruin his presidency or establish a basis for his being put out of office. I think that involves things beyond the Clinton annex, but it's still something that's very pertinent and probably involves people like the CIA director and Comey at that particular time and what they were doing to make a predicate to either ruin and halt things Trump would want to do or even get him out of office. And I think you're going to see more of that stuff made public as time goes on. And I'm not involved with that as much as I am the things we're talking about here and other investigations I'm doing. But I think you can see the stuff that Tulsi Gabbard put out that leads in the direction of answering some of your questions. But I think pretty bottom line and pretty substantial basis, what I'm trying to do is transparency is a first step to accountability. And I would expect that now that this stuff's out and the public knows about it, DOJ is going to find some pressure to closely review what has been exposed.
Yeah. So we were able to confirm a couple of weeks ago that the FBI has opened what they call a grand conspiracy case. It looks at 2016 to 2024 as one ongoing conspiracy. Protect the Democrat, pursue fake allegations against President Trump or his followers, that sort of rinse, repeat cycle. For all you know, you've worked in this town longer than almost anyone I know, and you have such a respected voice. Do you think that approach might yield some accountability, some sort of large conspiracy investigation to determine whether people violated the law from 16 to 24?
Well, I think it's going to be answered not necessarily in additional congressional investigations, but it's something that if law was broken, you'd expect the prosecutors to follow up and prosecute and let justice be done. And I think we can see it all, whether it's Jack Smith, what he was doing to put president in prison, or what the prosecutor in New York was doing to break him financially, or what was done through the Russia hoax and what we call Crossfire Hurricane. All of those things lumped together are all conspiracies to get Trump either in jail or out of office or keep him from being reelected. I can even tell you a story about a woman that visited with a Democratic senator in February of 2017, and the Democratic senator told my friend that Trump isn't going to be president by September. Now that's 2017. That if you want to talk about conspiracy, it started way back then, and who knows? Maybe it hasn't even ended yet.
Yeah.
Will that person testify?
Yeah.
Senator, would that person testify?
Was you mean was
Who said that President Trump would be out by the fall?
Oh, now I'm talking about September of 2017, not September of 2025. And that was a private. But I'm telling you, this woman that I've known for 40 years had this conversation with a Democratic senator that said that.
Amazing.
So you know, at the highest levels of the United States Senate, people were talking about Trump. They knew all this stuff was going on that is being exposed now about Russia, and the CIA conspiracy and all that to keep Trump from office. So the bottom line is that we ought to be thankful President Trump is back in office, so truth can come out to light, and we ought to just thank God that that's the situation. But if these people had their way, he wouldn't even serve those first 4 years.
Amazing.
Mr. Chairman, I know that a lot has already come out thanks to you, but there's still so much more to come out. We appreciate your hard work. I know the American people do as well. You say thank God for transparency in this administration, but I know a lot of people are saying thank God for Chairman Grassley for making a lot of this information possible. Sir, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, glad to be with you. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Yes, sir. All right, we're going to take a quick break and much more on the other side.
Hey folks, how many different beauty potions do you have sitting on your bathroom counter right now? Well, I have found the secret serum, and it's Vibrance Super C Serum. The ingredients in this one bottle can replace your day creams, your eye creams, the night creams, the neck creams, the wrinkle creams, and even the dark spot reducers. Made in the USA with the highest quality ingredients, including vitamin C, hyaluronic acid, vitamin B6, and vitamin E, Super C Serum delivers noticeable results. Now simplify your skincare routine, get a healthier complexion, and minimize wrinkles and age spots with Vibrance. Go to Vibrance.com /justnews to save up to 37% off and also get free shipping. That's Vibrance, VIBRIANCE.com /justnews. Welcome back, America. One of my favorite publications I love to read when I have some extra time, the Epoch Times. They do such great work, particularly chronicling all of the mischief that China creates across the world and on our soil. In fact, it's more than mischief. It's often violent and horrific repression. Joining us now, the CEO of that great publication, Janice Trey. Janice, great to have you on the show.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Amanda. Happy to be on your show.
It is an honor to have you on. You have such a great group of people. Many of them are my friends. Tell us a little bit, for those who don't know about the Epoch Times, how it was born and why it was born.
So Epoch Times was founded 25 years ago by Chinese Americans who experienced firsthand repression in China, Cultural Revolutions, Tiananmen Square Massacre, the persecution of Falun Gong. We have firsthand experience of what was like in a world without press freedom, internet freedom, and religious freedoms. So it was founded to bring news in and out of China and to break the blockage of the press freedoms. Many of our journalists in the early days were persecuted to death or sentenced to long sentences just to bring news out of China. I'll give you examples. In the SARS respiratory disease in around 2003, we reported the SARS 4 to 6 weeks ahead of any major U.S. media. Even Wall Street Journal acknowledged that the Epoch Times was the first one to break the news. In fact, we forced the Beijing regime to admit that the pandemic was happening. And some of the people who read about the pandemic, they changed the flights, they avoided the trip to China, so lives were saved by having the information timely.
Janice, I want to ask you about Shenyang. A lot of people in this country have had the pleasure of seeing that show. Absolutely, just spectacular. And a lot of those folks were marching in New York City yesterday. And I don't know if for my audience if they understand what a dire situation it is. But as that tour is going across this country, their tires get slashed. Their performers are threatened and intimidated by the CCP. It's a dire situation. John talked about that mischief, and it's happening right here on our U.S. shores.
Yes, in fact, in the last season, that was between December 2024 to May 2025, 122 bomb threats, mass shooting threats, death threats to Shenyang. Give you an example, on the opening night of the Kennedy Center, Shenyang Performing Arts that they perform, in the cold winter, there was a bomb threat. So all the performers, all the staff of Kennedy Center was asked to evacuate from Kennedy Center. So imagine in the middle of rehearsal, when you have minimum clothing, not even time to grab your jackets, and you were put on the freezing cold, wait for hours before returning to the center. And it was a way to intimidate the audience to not to come see the shows. Fortunately, many audience still come, and the transnational repressions happening on American soils across the world, the tires being slashed was in a way to recreate dangers, and not only to Shenyang performance on the tour bus, but also to other innocents, cars and around that. So this need to be stopped, and the playbook, the Chinese Communist Party has been trying to stop people from seeing this beautiful, magnificent performance as touring around the world, 200 cities a year, reaching 1 million audience, because Shenyang showcased China before communism. For 5,000 years, there were no communisms. And if we don't share the cultures, then the next generation would totally have no idea what the classical cultures was meant.
So important, and it's also visually stunning and just a beautiful thing to see. Janice, I want to talk a little bit about what we face. I know a lot of people think, well, one day we might be clashing with China, but the truth of the matter is they're at war with us now with the cyber attacks that we see. Congress is currently thinking of legislation to start to take some more serious action, but China's very aggressive against the United States already. Tell us where we are in that aggression and what we're doing to combat it.
The transnational repressions came in multiple fronts. One is using lawfare. Give you examples. The New York Times journalist who did 12 hit pieces on Shenyang was the same New York Times, was the same reporters, Nicole Holmes. She did 10 pieces on Trump's hush money that lead to the investigations and all that. And so the same playbook applied to Trump on the lawfare front is applying to Shenyang Performing Arts. And this needs to be stopped. Nicole Hong's father, George Hong, works for the United Front Work Department, which is the spy organizations for the Chinese Communist Party.
Amazing.
And then another leverage that they've been using was using media such as New York Times, and then the New York Times articles was being recycled by many other media. And within 48 hours, over 20,000 bots was created to spread the article. So the hit piece on Shenyang make the article become the most widely read article on New York Times in the entire 2024. In election years, that's not possible. And in fact, X has removed more than 15,000 of those, showing that they were not real accounts. So you can see the systematics using media and then using legal systems to attack a U.S. company. Shenyang is founded in New York, and mostly American citizen, American green card holders, and then also some artists from around the world that they recruited to showcase the classical culture as a very well liked. Take an example, in Manhattan, in Lincoln Center, 18 shows all sold out at more than 1,000 seats to meet the customer demands.
Wow.
Janice, under the last administration, under Joe Biden, we saw China ramp up its provocations against Taiwan. And we know that they had a vested interest in Joe Biden keeping the presidency because of those 10,000 or so driver's licenses that they sent to the United States to try to transfer into ballots for power for Joe Biden. Now that President Trump is in office, how is China having to rejigger and remap out their broader plan?
Well, Xi Jinping have instructed in October 2022 using the transnational repressions, and that is Americans against Americans. And that has been the playbook, and it was specifically orders, back in 2003 by the People Liberation Armies. And in this current administrations, because we all know that Trump has spoken up against China's, against communism, and also using tariffs and all that. So what's really important is to be mindful of the anti-American sentiments that the Chinese Communist Party is trying to do. Luckily, the Epoch Times, we have our internet censorship circumvention tool, so people from mainland China able to access Epoch Times using FreeGates software. And then NDD-TV through 4 satellites, we reach 100 million in Chinese around the world, in addition to Epoch Times 23 languages in 35 countries. So we're able to help people around the world understand the Trump administrations and also understand the threats from China. We've been reporting about the situation in Taiwan, including the infiltration in Taiwan, and also taken an example in the recent elections in Korea. Where the election machines was made? It was a Huawei machines, right? So you have to really be mindful. And the Americans against Americans, meaning using Americans as a proxies. And the same thing, Korea against Korea and Taiwan against Taiwan.
Sowing division. That's an old playbook. It's been played for a long time. Janice, everybody should go check out your amazing publication, epochtimes.com, one of the great reads in America. Thank you for joining us today. What a great interview. We'll get you back on soon. All right, folks, quick commercial break. When we come back, RFK Jr. is trying to make America healthy again, but did you know making yourself healthy again starts with better sleep? We'll explain right after these messages.
Welcome back to Just the News, No Noise. We've been highlighting the Make America Healthy Again movement quite a lot on our show, and for good reason. It's why President Trump brought on RFK Jr. into his administration. And we know that we Americans aren't exactly the healthiest bunch, and a lot of that has to do with what is in our food, but a lot of it also deals with how much sleep we get and the quality of that sleep. So joining us now to discuss how we can get better sleep is founder and inventor of Zipa, biomedical engineer and renowned sleep expert, Dr. Jonathan Greenberg. Dr. Greenberg, thanks so much for coming.
Thanks, Amanda and John. Really happy to be here. Happy to share our story.
Perfect. All right. So as we were just talking about before we came to air, 3 pillars of health. A lot of people pay attention to diet and exercise, but sleep, that third pillar, people don't really pay that much attention to it. They think, I put my head on the pillow, I'm there for 6 or 8 hours, and then that's it.
Well, nobody talks about it. I mean, that's the biggest problem. People just don't realize what a huge impact it has. And, what I find is that not only are people not talking about it, but they don't realize the snorer goes, doesn't bother me that much. It actually does. What happens is when you snore, you're not getting into that REM sleep, that deep sleep. And that's where your immune system and everything else starts to get healthier. But the other problem is the bed partner. And the bed partner is impacted as much, if not more, than the snorer. So they're not getting their REM sleep either. And there was a study by Harvard that was fascinating. It said that if you do not get your REM sleep, the appropriate amount of REM sleep the night before, you're 4 times more likely to get into a car accident.
Oh, wow.
Now, think of the mom driving the kids to school the next day, and they're at a greater chance, 4 times greater chance of getting into a car accident. If the husband knew that, they would find a way to stop their snoring right away. And when you start looking at the things, you look at our country, and we're gaining weight. We're all gaining lots of weight, and it's harder and harder to lose. So what's happening? And again, that gets back to your sleep, the quality of the sleep. What happens again if you don't get your REM sleep? And 60 Minutes had done a study back a number of years ago. You don't get your REM sleep, your body metabolism actually slows. And something called leptin, your leptin levels go down. And that means you're always hungry and you're craving, in particular, carbohydrates. So getting quality sleep is just huge, really, really important and impactful. And that's why that's kind of been my mission and my passion, to really wake up the world to it.
All right, so a lot of people eventually go from snoring to needing CPAP because they have apnea, and those machines come on and they just look horrible. So a lot of people say, I'm not going to deal with this at all because I don't want that machine. My wife doesn't want that machine. But you have found a way to make it a little bit less onerous. Tell us a little bit how Zipa came along.
So I looked at what causes snoring. You know, my background is as a sleep dentist. I've treated over 10,000 patients. And so I looked at, okay, what's going on? What's causing it? Because if I don't know what's causing it, I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
And I realized it was all about the tongue. Now, a lot of patients say it's my tongue that's making it happen. Well, the truth is, if it was it's your nose that's making it happen. And so if it were your nose, then you would snore while you were awake. And we don't. So what happens is it's really the tongue. And when you put your head back, your tongue, gravity causes the tongue to fall backwards. So I realized we had to keep the tongue from falling backwards. What I created was this mouthpiece here. It's a Zipa mouthpiece. Zipa stands for Happy Z spelled backwards. So it's ZYPPAH. And this elastic band, this band is what keeps the tongue from falling back. So if you put in your mouth, here's your tongue. That band keeps the tongue from falling back. We all know that if we drink alcohol, our snoring is worse. Alcohol is a muscle relaxant. That's why the tongue falls back. So we got that, and I said, if I can help people for less than $100 to stop their snoring, then we've got something really powerful. And that's what I wanted to go after. In terms of the CPAP and sleep apnea, snoring's the precursor. Yep. As we get older, we continue to lose more and more muscle tone. So if we can get and stop the snoring now, be able to keep ourselves quiet, happy bedroom. We always say happy wife is a happy life. So quiet bedroom, we can do that now. We can avoid that CPAP machine, not get sleep apnea, and be much happier. I mean, nobody wants to wear a CPAP machine if they can avoid it at any cost.
Yeah.
If they need it, it works great.
Yeah, but you end up looking like Bane from DC Comics, and no one wants that while they're sleeping. No one wants to wake up next to that while they're sleeping. Is it typically men who suffer from this more than women?
Surprisingly, it's not what you think. So it is more men, but still about 40% of my patients are women.
Wow.
But women don't talk about it as much. So what happens is, just like women aren't supposed to pass gas or have body odor or belch, they do. They're humans just like we are, but it's not talked about as much. So a ton of my patients are women and have a solution for them. If you're a single woman or end up being divorced, it's really challenging. You go and you're with a guy and you go, I snore so badly. That's just a real unfortunate situation. So for them, very strong as well. Now, another thing that we've added to the mix is we've added something called mouth tape. And mouth tape actually is keeping your mouth closed. So this is kind of what it looks like. It's flexible, it's elastic. You can actually breathe through it, but you put it on your mouth, and when you sleep with it, with the mouthpiece together, it's fantastic. So what we've done is whenever somebody orders a mouthpiece, especially with the promo code and through your show, they will get a free month supply of the mouth tape as well, because we want everybody to have their best night possible.
Well, it really is remarkable. I've learned a lot about this since we joined in partnership with you, Doctor, and it's such a great invention that you've done, and we just got to keep educating people about it. And you've been kind enough to help our audience get in on this on a great deal. If you want to be proactive about your health and your sleep, visit Zyppah, Z-Y-P-P-A-H-A, I'm sorry, get the ZYPPAH.com, and you'll use the promo code SNORE. You'll get 20% off as well as free shipping. That's a great deal. Again, once again, the promo code SNORE at Zyppah.com. Doctor, thanks for joining us. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, a few minutes to wrap up the day.
Welcome back, everybody. We have some Washington stories to close out the show, but I want to start with a really sad story. Malcolm Jamal Warner, a fixture in my childhood, Theo Huxtable. I grew up on the Cosbys, and I absolutely love Theo Huxtable. And I just want to use this as an opportunity as a PSA to learn how to swim. Even if you're an adult, don't be embarrassed. Go learn how to swim. He was 54 years old and died in an accidental drowning in Costa Rica. I'm sure that he had pretty good swimming skills, otherwise he wouldn't have been in the water. But sometimes when you are faced with gigantic waves or a riptide or something, you just don't know how to handle it. So everybody, please go learn how to swim. Yeah, yes, sad.
It is. He was just a great face of television, and played the character Theo just perfectly, the perfect older son. And
really did.
Yeah, he's going to be sorely missed, I think.
All right, so the USDA ending their standards for disaster relief, the former standards of basing it off of race and sex.
How about that? Yeah. How about we give farmers their disaster aid based on the disaster they suffered? How about that?
Right.
Yeah, it's just crazy. That's some great work by Kimberly Herman at the Southeastern Legal Foundation who brought that lawsuit, and a big props for Brooke Rollins for taking the action to finally fix it. It's been litigated. The courts have ruled against it. Someone finally stepped into the void and stopped it.
Yep. And another ridiculous idea that has to be legislated away, I think it's Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who has introduced a bill to end these transgender experiments on animals.
Yeah.
What are we doing? These are your
no
tax
idea.
dollars.
Yeah, exactly. Right, more waste. We're just doing research for the purpose of being able to say you did research, but where's the human benefit? None. So get rid of it.
Absolutely. All right, a new terror threat we have learned about that targets retired military officers who served in very, very important areas like Syria, Iraq.
Yep.
This is from a U.S. Army memo.
Yeah, story I wrote over the weekend. It came in recently. I bet you it's ISIS from what we can tell from our reporting, going after former soldiers. The threat appears to be limited to Florida, a cell in Florida looking to create some havoc or death for some of these soldiers. So they've been asked to be vigilant, keep an eye out, and keep their guard up. So we're hoping everyone does that.
Yeah. All right. If I look like a wiggle worm, it's because there's a mosquito in the studio. It already bit John once, and it bit me 6 times. So that's why I'm wiggling around in my chair. All right, John.
I'm losing 5 down by 5 already. How did that happen?
I'm winning the mosquito bite war. All right. So Judicial Watch, who has done a whole lot in the interest of transparency, especially with respect to voter rolls. The Justice Department has filed a statement of interest in their case in Illinois for their voter roll lawsuit.
It's very important. Listen, remember what Ken Paxton just brought out a couple weeks ago? 100 illegal aliens got voted in the last year. They were able to vote. How does that start? They get on the voter list. If you don't get on the voter list, you keep your voter list clean, you're not going to get the vote. And so this has been a mission of Judicial Watch in several states. Also Pilge, another group with J. Christian Adams. One of the most important election integrity things that aren't being done in a lot of states, particularly blue states. Cleanup time. Clean up in Isle, Illinois.
Illinois, I love that. President Trump has had to do a lot of cleanup on Isles, Afghanistan.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, just what happened to him. I mean, just think about that. We get him out of the country. We can't get him in our country because we didn't prepare for the way we exit the country, and then we leave him in UN and we forget about him. And then they're almost on the way to the Taliban. When President Trump finds out about it, he intervenes, and thankfully now those allies of the United States and the military served alongside of us, they're sleeping a little bit better tonight.
Yeah, somebody needs to make a political cartoon of President Trump with one of those custodian carts that has like 70 different elements on it for cleaning up. That's President Trump. He needs all the things.
Oh my gosh. Laura Logan, who is the reporter that wrote this for us and has really been the voice of these Afghan interpreters who've been abandoned, she's going to join us in studio on Wednesday. One of the great journalists of all time. Should be a fun conversation, but she deserves a lot of props for highlighting it.
She does. She does. And you deserve a lot of props for all of the great stories that you have over on justthenews.com. So all of you,
You're right
head
along
over
with
to
us.
justthenews.com.
A lot of them are your stories. Yeah.
I'm still learning. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here tonight.